So be it. Bob Brown has turned up for that media conference. Let's go to that now.
The three men who've got aboard the Shonan Maru II, the Prime Minister should be then directing the Southern Protector to move on to the whaling scene in Australia's Antarctic waters. It's the Ocean Protector. It should be protecting the ocean. That's its job. And the Prime Minister's job here is to be pointing her finger not at the three men from Bunbury, but the lawbreakers in Tokyo who are breaching international law, and she says that, with their killing of the whales in our Antarctic waters, in this international Antarctic harbour and haven for the whales.
So do you support the activist actions?
Oh yes, I do support them. I mean, the world's never moved forward except people taking peaceful action within the democratic system. That's been the case with the suffragettes, and the editorialists waggled their fingers at them and grimaced and complained about them and the threat they were to the economy. Well, time's moved on, but it's taken the three West Australians to draw global attention to the breaching of international law by the Japanese in killing these defenceless whales in Antarctic waters for no good point. They're not even making a profit out of it. And the great job being done by the Sea Shepherd and its crews in being down there to take on the Japanese in the absence of the Australian government, the New Zealand government and every other government on the planet.
So do you support taxpayers' money then funding the rescue of these three men?
Well, I support taxpayers' money funding the Ocean Protector, and I support Tony Abbott in calling for this boat not just to be sent to retrieve these three men, but to do its job, be allowed to do its job, down there monitoring the illegal whaling activities. I certainly do, and I'll be bringing a bill into the Parliament to see that the patrol vessel is there in future whaling seasons. And Tony Abbott's indicated support for that, and I support him in that.
But in terms of this particular operation of getting these three men back to home soil, do you support hundreds of thousands of dollars, according to the federal government, to do this?
Well, Julia Gillard's caused this cost by not taking the Japanese on. Where is the Minister for the Environment? I haven't heard a squeak out of him. And Japan seems to be running what's happening in the Southern Oceans. It's time that Australia asserted itself. It's time that Australia asserted it. I mean, we had this Japanese ship, Shonan Maru II, invading Australia's domestic whale sanctuary. And the Prime Minister said nothing. The Minister for the Environment hasn't been heard of. Of course that's the job of the Australian government. And taxpayers, aside, are getting a very raw deal out of the government because they're simply not taking the cheapest option, which is very determined political action on Tokyo and an injunction in the World Court. That's what the government should be doing if it wants to save taxpayers' money.
What do you think about the diplomatic relations between the two countries off the back of this incident? Do you reckon they've been harmed by this?
No, I think the Japanese are taking Canberra for granted. You know, they're the confrontationists. They're the people who are breaking international law. I think we'd get more respect if we stood up to that instead of pussyfooting around as the Gillard government and previous governments, right back to the Howard government, have done when it comes to properly confronting the Japanese and upholding international law, which is to protect the whales, not least in Australia's whaling sanctuary, our own whaling sanctuary, where these whales should be safe during the summer feeding season and safe to come back to the calving season, where the Australians love to see them. Well, there's a real resource here at stake, which is living whales, which are so important and of growing importance, not just to the well-being of human beings who love to see them, but a growing economy based on people going to see them off Australia's coastlines.
So would you say that the government's scared of tarnishing their relationship with Japan?
Oh, the Australian government tugs the forelock to Tokyo, and the Japanese keep taking advantage of that. And the incursion into the Australian domestic whale protected zone, which goes out 200 miles, by the Shonan Maru II, without a peep out of Canberra or Wellington, is a pretty shameful display, an insipid display by the Prime Ministers of both countries. It's time they stood up to the Japanese and took an injunction in the World Court to stop this illegal behaviour, where the Prime Minister says it's illegal, but she's pointing a finger at people who have gone aboard, the three West Australians who have gone on board the Shonan Maru II for the difficulties they've caused her. Well, bad luck, Julia. You should have been taking much greater action to stop this happening in the first place by preventing the Japanese from their illegal behaviour in Australia's Antarctic waters.
They were captured in international waters, though the government doesn't really have much say over that, though.
Well, they were captured in Australia's economic zone. There's dispute about the legalities of that, but the fact is they've had the gumption to do what the Australian government and its ministers haven't done, even though the Australian government and its ministers have had the power to do this. And until they seek injunctive relief in the World Court, that is a stop to what the Australian government says is illegal behaviour, it seems like they're really taking for granted the widespread Australian view, and this is huge amongst Australians, that the Japanese should be stopped from this illegal behaviour, killing our whales in our waters to the south of this country each year, while the Australian government doesn't even have the gumption to send this ocean protector, which is designed and named to protect our fisheries and our ecological systems in the Southern Ocean.
Should the Sea Shepherd or the activists pay for the cost of the ocean protector heading down?
Well, the Prime Minister, ultimately, and the government, if they'd taken action, would not have led to this situation where the patrol vessel's now going to retrieve the three activists rather than protect the whales. There's a series which is very clearly in place here. It's the inaction of the Gillard government and previous governments that have led to the Japanese continuing to take advantage of the whales and to kill the whales, and a growing tide of disapproval. And the Sea Shepherd, it's been vilified by governments as well, is down there doing the government's job for them, and these three guys have very bravely gone aboard this ship to make a point internationally that governments are turning a blind eye to the illegal behaviour of the Japanese whaling fleet. That's where it all starts. It should have stopped, and the government of Australia could stop it if it took proper action.
What do you think it's going to take? I mean, this has been going on for so long. What do you think it's going to take for the government to act?
I think it takes the Australian government and the New Zealand government getting a spine and taking on Japan in the international court with an injunction, seeking an injunction to stop them from doing what they're doing. But next to that, it requires a patrol vessel being down there in the killing fields and showing the world what is happening as the Japanese send these grenade-tipped harpoons into the warm-hearted whales to cause a disgusting death for no good point. They're not essential to feed anybody. They're not making a profit. This Japanese whaling fleet is losing money. It's being subsidised by the government, and it's bringing great discredit to Japan as well as to those governments who look on and don't act. So I think, it's time we brought an end to this, and a much greater diplomatic and legal efforts required from the Australian and New Zealand governments.
I've just got a couple more questions on a completely different topic.
Sure.
In terms of apple imports into the country, do you think the government should start allowing that?
No. We believe, and Christine Milne's been very strong on this as well, in food security in this country. And the potential for the spread of the blight is a real worry. And I support the Tasmanian government if this does happen, in wanting to prevent the apple imports coming into Tasmania. It's an important industry. It's not what it used to be, but it's an important industry for Tasmania, and we need to give it security from invading organisms, and we should not be taking that risk.
The Federal Agriculture Minister Joe Ludwig says the ban puts the entire Australian agriculture industry at risk, export industry. Do you agree with that?
No. This is Joe trying to defend a decision to allow another import into the country which threatens a very viable industry here in Australia. And, the apple industry is disease-free, it's certainly free of this disease. It's unfortunate, it's been in New Zealand for many decades, but that is not our problem. And we ought to not take on that problem in terms of being dictated to by World Trade Organisation rules, which can end up causing a huge impost on Australia, the cleanliness and the health of Australian agriculture. We have as a nation a right to be biosecure, to not allow invasive species into this country. And there is no compelling scientific evidence that it's not going to happen if we take on the imports of apples from a country which has got this unfortunate disease in its crops.
Prime Minister's in town on the weekend. Will you be meeting with her?
No, I'm not meeting with Prime Minister Gillard. She's failed to keep her word on protecting the Tasmanian forests. She signed off on the 7th of August that there would be immediate halt to the destruction of the high conservation value forests of Tasmania when she keeps up her word on that matter, her signed public word on that matter. We'll be having meetings. In the meantime, if there's important matters that she wants to talk with me about, very happy to. But the regular routine meetings will hold off until we're back on track with her commitment to protecting the forests.
So are you staging somewhat of a personal protest against her?
Not at all. I'm simply saying, Prime Minister, I stand for the agreement that you signed and for the protection of these World Heritage Value forests. Step up to the mark.
Wouldn't this be a perfect time, though, to get in her ear and really grill her about what's happening?
I've been in her ear and I've really grilled her about what's happening. The question is, has she listened?
Can I ask you a couple of questions about the Tarkine mine?
Sure.
So the Liberals are talking about the World Heritage delay, saying that it's not good for the economy because it's just delaying another...
OK, we might leave that there for the moment. That's the Greens leader Bob Brown getting into some local issues. That was live from Hobart in Tasmania. On the whaling issue, he was saying the Prime Minister should direct the customs boat that's going to pick up those 3 anti-whaling protesters from a Japanese ship in the Southern Ocean, that Julie Gillard should direct that ship on to monitor the Japanese whaling operation in the Southern Ocean. He also said the Japanese ship had, quote, invaded Australia's domestic whaling sanctuary. We might go now.